And welcome back, everybody. And we're chatting with Matt Swaim of On the Journey with Matt and Ken at chnetwork.org. Also the host of Sunrise Morning Show on EWTN and also Sacred Heart Radio. Talking about Holy Week from a Catholic and Protestant perspective. We're on Holy Thursday right now. And yeah, it's interesting how much Protestant participation there is on Holy Thursday in many different ways.
There really is. And you know, it's interesting. So we knew it was important, and there were probably people in the room who kind of had a sense of why it was important and what was going on. And we knew it was connected with the Passover and you know, that Jesus was about to go do something on the cross that was going to replace all the sacrifices of the Old Testament. But we didn't know. I mean, I don't think I had a sense, and I don't know if I would have gotten a good answer if I'd have asked anybody or even the pastor about, like, so what does this right here have to do with anything other than Jesus was saying, hey, this is just showing you what I'm going to do tomorrow, right? I mean, that's kind of the way that we understood it. Now, as a Catholic, if it wasn't for Good Friday, Holy Thursday would be the most theologically packed day of the year, right?
Yeah, right.
Because you've got not just Jesus washing the feet of the disciples, right, and everything that means for what the new order of clergy is going to be like, right? You also have something that we didn't understand and we didn't recognize in my tradition, which is that Jesus at the Last Supper doesn't just institute the Eucharist, he also institutes the priesthood, right? Because in saying, do this in remembrance of me, he's not just saying this is what you do. He's also saying, you people, you right here, you are the ones who are going to do this, right? He's ordaining them. And the word do, as I'm sure you've mentioned 1,000 times in conversations about the Eucharist, has a sacrificial connotation, like as in, give this offering in remembrance of me. And offering and a sacrifice is, you know, it's why priesthood is at the heart of every single, like, world religion, except for evangelical Protestantism, right? I mean, it's offering, doing, you know, making a sacrifice is at the heart of religion. It is, you know, it's just what it is. And Jesus is showing what that his new sacrifice will do. And this Last Supper is the way that he's going to have us enter into it with him. So you've got all that, but we did not recognize a priesthood. We believed in the priesthood of all believers, that everybody when they're baptized, and you know, Catholics believe this to an extent, right? That you're baptized prophet, priest, and king. But we believe that from the moment you're saved and accept Jesus into your heart, we are all a priesthood, a royal, a chosen race, a royal priesthood. We didn't believe in a special class of people who were ordained for a specific kind of ministerial priesthood. And yet that's what's happening at the Last Supper. So you have all of that. You have layers and layers of how this connects with Passover that I never had a clue about until I started becoming Catholic and reading, you know, the church fathers. And of course, now we have wonderful books out that weren't out when I was going through this, you know, books like Brant Petre's Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist that kind of really dig into what all is happening. I mean, there's a million things happening at the Last Supper that would have been, well, first of all, if someone would try to explain to me at the time, it wouldn't have made sense to me because I didn't have a Catholic context or a sacramental imagination to realize what was being said there. But even just some of the historical stuff about what the Passover was and how it took place. And isn't it strange that we hear about the bread being at the Last Supper and we hear about the wine at the Last Supper, but we don't hear one single mention of the main course, right? Which is the lamb, you know, I mean, so, and like I say, some of those things were on my radar, and some of those things weren't, but,
now,
but I
do you do foot washing in your former tradition?
See, I'm trying to remember. I feel like we did, but it wasn't like, we didn't have any kind of like an order of worship, like a liturgical handbook, the way that you've got a missal in the Catholic Church. Right. So it would have been at the discretion, I'm sure, of the pastor. I feel like there was foot washing in my tradition. I wish I could see. This is the kind of stuff that I wish I'd had VHSs of, from that time in my life, so I could go back and look and hear what was said in these contexts as well.
Yeah, I know some Protestant traditions actually like elevate foot washing to almost a sacrament.
Yeah.
Or it's more important than even the Lord's Supper aspect, is the foot washing aspect. So I was just curious where that was in your radar of experience.
Well, there's no theological reason why a Protestant couldn't do foot washing, right? I mean, with some of these things, like there's a theological distinction between what we believe about the Eucharist and what Protestants believe about what happened at the Last Supper. You couldn't do everything that Catholics do, but foot washing you could, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you got the added layer of something that was completely foreign to me as a Protestant. And again, this goes back to the whole sacramental question, is the idea of now we move the Eucharist out of the sanctuary and either off to the side or into the basement or into another building altogether, as a way of sort of physically going out from the Last Supper into the Garden of Gethsemane, and waiting. It would have made zero sense for us to be like, okay, so let's just take the leftover juice and crackers, move them into the fellowship hall, and whoever wants to sit with them for a couple of hours, like it wouldn't have computed, right? It wouldn't have made sense. Sure. And yet that is, I think, like one of the most powerful things about Holy Thursday. If you believe what the Eucharist is, if you believe the Eucharist is what the Catholic Church says it is, and you're invited then to go hold vigil with it, the way that the apostles were invited to hold vigil with our Lord walking around on the planet back then,
right?
And they're fighting off sleep unsuccessfully, and you're called to go and do what they couldn't, which is stay awake 1 hour with him. I mean, that's mind-blowingly powerful to be given that kind of an invitation at the end of Holy Thursday. But again, it was something that wouldn't have made any sense to me because we didn't have a sacramental theology, and to us it was just crackers and grape juice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a whole different dimension, not just, the biblical data, but the sacramental, the optics of what's going on